Hello everyone, hope you are all doing good. Today we are going to learn about EC2 instances and instance types of EC2 instances, and also how we can create and custom images out of these instances, and how we can do a EBS volume attached to this instance if we require an extra space. So while creating an EC2 instance, you will have a different instance types available, right? First, let us learn what type of instance types available and when to use what. When you go to an EC2 and search for instances, you can launch a new instance, enter the name, and we will have to select one of the AMI. We'll talk about AMI in some time. And next, you have to select instance type. Which instance type that you have to select is what a question now. So when you check for the instance type, there are many: T series, A series, C series, right? What kind of network performance that you required, based on that you have to select an instance type. Till now we are doing T series, right? Those are suitable for low to moderate. These are not suitable for production instances. Production running workloads required something more, up to 10 gigabytes or higher. So based on how the network performance is required and how much memory that we required, how much CPU that we required, based on that we actually select different instance types. Okay, and let's go ahead for now and select T3 micro, select the instance type, and as usual we will select the key pair to log into your machine with a private key, and keep this machine in public subnet. And select the security group that will allow SSH to your machine and also to run any web application with port 80. By default, 8 GB EBS volume will be attached to our machines whenever you launch a machine. Right? Okay. And we have our server is running. We'll just go ahead and log into this server with public IP. To log into this machine, I am using a tool PuTTY. Since this is an Amazon Linux machine, the username for this machine is EC2-user. In the PuTTY first, that you have to enter host name of this machine. So for that you have to collect IP address and the username. And select the private key to connect to this machine. Not a public, the private key. The PPK file that you have downloaded, right? The same key that you have to enter to connect to this machine. Once you have connected to this machine, what I'm going to do now, we will install some applications and we will write some code to run a small HTML web application, and will take a custom image out of this instance. Okay, I'm going to write a small PHP application running on this machine. So first we'll try to install Apache and PHP on this machine. First we have to run yum update -y so that if there are any updates pending on this machine that are going to fulfill, commands has to run with super user. Okay, sudo, this is the super user. Now you can run yum update on this machine. Yum update -y, yes. Sudo yum update. I'm going to install Apache PHP. Okay, this machine already has those two installed, so it is telling those two are already installed, completed. And let me start Apache server. Let me enable the service, and I'm going to create one custom PHP page so that you can see that HTML page when you browse your public IP of your machine. Okay, let me copy and create one custom index.php. The default HTML page for PHP will come under var www.html folder. Just go to that folder and create some HTML page. Okay, let's validate if that folder exists and the file that we have created is already present. Cd var www html. If you list, yes, we have file created index.php. If we see the contents in that page, yes, we have our HTML page added to that. First you have to change the permissions of that page using chmod. Yes, I have a web application running with small HTML code. Let us go to our browser and check if we are able to access that web application. Public IP of my server. Yes, I'm able to access my web application here. We are good. Now we'll take image out of this machine now, so that if this machine got shut down or any disaster recovery, we can launch a new machine out of that custom image. That is the advantage of images. Go to image and templates, create an image, my PHP image. Is this the right server that I'm on? Let's check once again. Yes. My PHP image. You can give name whatever you want according to your convenience, and if we give name with versioning, that would be very helpful, and if you give a meaningful description, that will help upcoming developers to develop a clear images, and it will take a snap of your 8 GB storage that is attached to your machine and creates image. that images you will see under AMIs. If you see, the status of this image is still under pending state. It will take 2 to 5 minutes after you create the image to come in ready state. Okay. What is the advantage of this images? If you launch a new machine out of this image, Apache is already installed, PHP is already installed, our custom web page like application is already running, all the services are already in place, so we don't need to do everything once again. So it scales very quickly. Disaster recovery, it helps in disaster recoveries, and it creates a consistent environment, and you can deploy this to multiple regions. Okay, let us see if this has come to a new state. It's still pending. Yeah, as I said, it will take 2 to 5 minutes. The naming and versioning is some of the best practices that we can follow while creating the AMIs. While giving the name, you have to give it as a versioning, and you can also extend that name with your environment, prod, dev or QA, whichever environment that you have created AMI for. And if you give a more descriptive description, that would be good enough for upcoming developers. For example, I can give it as an Apache 2.4, PHP 8.1 custom app with version 2.3 and created on so and so date, so that the developers will be able to understand what this image contains, and if they want to do any upgrades for any of these services running, they will be doing that. And these AMIs will cost money for storage, not for creating AMI, but along with your AMI it will take a snapshot of your storage, right? So it will cost money for that storage. It will cost $0.05 per month, per GB per month. And so if you are practicing this on a free tier account, just make sure you delete these AMIs along with associated snapshots. You can share these AMIs within your account or within specific AWS accounts, or you can also make these AMIs publicly so that the public can make use of your images to create instances. Okay, let me launch instance from here, launch an instance from AMI. Okay, my PHP app server, my PHP app server, and select network settings, and the key pair, edit, choose the public subnet and security group. That's all you have to do. For my PHP server, if I take public IP of that machine, just go and search, your application is already launched. Okay, for previous one, yeah, there is some, the application is still getting the metadata of that machine, so you're not getting these details, instance type and availability zones. It will take a minute or two to get these details updated for that metadata of the instance. So For this application to run, you took at least 5 to 10 minutes, right? You have to SSH into that machine and you have to install all the services and run the application. But if you have a custom image ready, just took 1 or 2 minutes time to launch instance and get into the application. As I said, it is very helpful in disaster recovery scenarios. Yeah, make sure you clean up all the services once you done with your practice. How you can do that? Go to AMIs. Under EC2 you have an AMIs tab, right? AMIs. Select the AMI. Under actions you can deregister an AMI. While doing your deregistration of AMI, make sure to delete associated snapshots as well. Yeah, I hope we all got what custom images and which type of instance type that we have to select while creating an EC2 instance. Next topic we are gonna discuss now is volumes. Under Elastic Black Store you have something called volumes, right? Let me delete some of these. By default, whenever you are creating instance, now you are getting 8 GB volume. However, you would like to attach some 10 GB volumes to store some other data on your machine. How you can do that? Yes, you can attach some data volume to your machine even after creation of your machine. Okay. So I'm creating a volume of 10 GB general purpose SSD and IOPS let be the default of 3000 IOPS and throughput 125. Let it be same like that. And one thing you have to remember while creating a volume, if you want to attach this volume to your instance, this volume should be created on same availability zone where your instance is running. For example, I have to attach my volume to this web server. That is running on East 1A, US East 1A. So I'll be creating a volume on same US East 1A availability zone, otherwise you cannot attach the volume to that instance. Okay, create a volume. Have created the volume. Let me check the volume with this volume ID. Created. Yeah, I have size 10 GB volume has been created. Okay, this is not attached to any of your servers, so attach a volume. Select the server that you want to attach this volume with. Let me select one of the servers running, my web server. Device name, as they are telling, recommended for Linux. XVDA is for root volume. For other data volumes you have to choose this device name, SDF2P. Let me select SDF. So I have attached a volume. Let me log into my instance and look if this volume is available. It is my web server. Okay, get the IP address of that machine. Putty tool. EC2-user @ public IP of my machine. Select the private key connect to that machine. Okay, sudo su hyphen, let me log in as a super user, lsblk. You are seeing 10 GB volume it attached, but it doesn't have any mount point, means you cannot make use of this disk. If you have fundamental knowledge on how you can make a file system out of this volume and how you can mount that volume to your machine, you can make use of this, and you can store some files inside this machine. I'll show you that. If you don't have any fundamental knowledge, you will feel something difficult to understand this. However, just follow what I said now. As you to list all block devices, what we type lsblk, and there is something called as file system that will help you to format this lsblk volume and mount this disk to your system. So first we have to check whether the file system is available or not. For that, sudo file -s, do file -s, and nv something, what we have the name here, right? The same thing we'll give. Command not found. Okay, let me type nvme1n1, no such file or directory. Okay, this doesn't have any file system associated with this, so I have to format it first. So sudo mkfs-t, mkfs is make a file system. I am using extension 4, and for this block nvme1n1. So what it is telling, creating a file system and allocating a group tables, everything is done. So now we have file system created, and now I have to create a mount point and mount that volume. That's it. So I'll be creating mount point mkdir. Let me give it as /data, and I will mount /dev nvme1n1 to this data. Yes, I have mounted. To verify this, df-h, can see, right, /data has been mounted to this volume. But whenever you reboot your system, this mount will go away. To make this as a permanent, you have to edit fstab file and add this UUID of this extension. Let me do that. To get UUID, sudo blkid for dev nvme1n1. Yeah, this is the UUID of this bulk volume. Just copy this one, edit nano etc fstab. You have to add that UUID here. Just remove the double quotes. You have to mention which file system that you have used. Which extension that you have used to format this. All those things that you have to add here. this is mounted to slash data. ext4 file system, default, no fail, 0. This is a basic Linux. Control O to write, enter, Control X to exit. Yeah, we have edited. Even though you reboot this system, this mount will not go away if you add those details in etcfs tab. If something happens on this machine and it got shut down, you can still have a volume here, and you can take a snapshot of that volume and you can attach that volume to any other machine. How to take a snapshot of that volume? Go to your volumes, select which volume you want to take snapshot, action, create a snapshot. You can give some description name for this and create snapshot. That's it. Once you have a snapshot available, you can attach this snapshot to any other machine, or you can create a machine. You can create a volume out of this snapshot, or you can create an image from this snapshot, and you can create a machine out of this, or from this volume you can attach to your instance. That's how the volumes are helpful in EC2. Today we have learned 3 topics: instance types under EC2, and also how to create an AMI or custom AMIs, and also how to create a volume and attach to your machine, and how to take a snapshot of that volume, and how we can make use of this in our disaster recovery scenarios. Thank you for watching. I hope this video helpful for you. We'll look some other EC2 topics in the next video. Thank you.